Well, those are just some of the tales of those who have lived to tell the story, having been infected by COVID-19. So we want to trace back the journey to where it all began for us as a people. Now, the first case of COVID-19 in the country would spark a series of events that would forever redefine the social economic landscape and limit movement of goods and persons. It was a period of uncertainty, suspicion, and limited information. 1 year later, there is a vaccine, more information, and Kenyans are adjusting to the new normal. Now, Regina Manyara looks back at the last 12 months and the struggles in battling the pandemic, whose impact will be felt for generations to come.
I want to inform you that the Ministry of Health has confirmed the first coronavirus case in Kenya.
Anxiety gripped the country following the announcement of the first case of COVID-19, prompting the government to immediately put a raft of measures aimed at containing the spread of the virus, measures that included the closure of learning institutions.
We have suspended learning in all our education institutions with immediate effect. Consequently, and to facilitate a phased approach, primary and secondary day schools are to suspend operations from tomorrow. For those in boarding schools, the school administration is to ensure that students are home by Wednesday, the 18th March 2020, while universities and tertiary institutions are to close by Friday, 20th March 2020.
That led to the disruption of the curriculum, and you realize now it will take us like 2-3 years to normalize and recover from that loss.
The government then rolled out virtual learning to make up for the lost academic ground. The implementation of virtual learning would, however, come with its own share of challenges as it widened the learning gap, as some learners were left out owing to the lack of requisite resources.
Studies that we've seen indicate that not more than 20% of the children population in Kenya could have access to that. And I think that as a country, that should be able to throw us back to reflect over where we missed the step to be able to equip our schools for online learning. Again, the other thing that we look at is the economic ability of parents to sustain such programs. If you make $1 a day or maybe $2 a day, and you have to make a choice between buying bundles to be able to facilitate learning of your children and buying unga or buying a necessity like food, most parents would go for food.
Many public schools also struggle to stay afloat during the long school closure, opting to either lay off or send their staff on unpaid leave, leaving many teachers struggling to make ends meet.
And most of them went for a whole year without a single pay. And you had cases of even some teachers committing suicide as a result of the frustrations. They were not able to meet their obligations or make ends meet. So I think in future we need to, one, get a way in which we can establish a fund, an emergency fund for education. Private sector could be able to access it, could be accessed as a loan, could be accessed as a grant, but if it is a loan, it has to be a soft loan.
Months into the closure, there was a spike in the vices such as child abuse and sexual exploitation. In June 2020, a survey conducted by the Kenya Health Information System found out that 3,964 girls under the age of 19 in Machakos County were impregnated in 5 months.
It means that at least our schools have a special place that we need to advance, that they are the safest zones that our children can have, and teachers play very serious roles. Apart from teaching, they do parenting.
The government, in consultation with stakeholders, arrived at a decision to commence a phased resumption of in-person learning in strict compliance with COVID-19 safety protocols. On Tuesday, the 7th of July 2020, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha announced the phased reopening of universities. A month later, the Ministry of Education announced the resumption of learning for Grade 4, Class 8 and Form 4 learners. On January 4th, 2021, full in-person learning finally resumed. To curb the spread of COVID-19 in schools, Wearing of face masks became mandatory, social distancing protocols were enforced, schools were directed to conduct mandatory temperature checks, provide hand-washing points and sanitizers, as well as restrict movement in and out of institutions. Some schools, however, struggled to meet protocols such as social distancing.
I want to plead with our gallant teachers to ensure that they become innovative. For example, in this school, you can see in between the trees, if the weather is as good as it is now, nothing stops the head teacher, who is an excellent teacher, from having classes outside there, in addition to others being inside the room.
When Professor Magoha proposed that we can use trees have been used all along, but we cannot be able to use them to replace classrooms. We teachers creatively use spaces in the schools for different activities at different times. And we can't tell them now we stop building classrooms. What you are expecting that in addition to the pilot desk program, the national desk program, which was not also inadequate, we would have invested heavily in expansion of classrooms, expansion of dormitories, expansion of latrines or toilets, and expansions of other facilities like laboratories.
To help schools meet the requirement on social distancing, the government embarked on a project to equip them with desks and chairs.
As far as the funding from the government of the Republic of Kenya is concerned, the money is 19 billion shillings. As soon as that figure is reached, it shall be wired to schools, hopefully by Monday.
The government further directed all school heads and local leaders to ensure all learners report back to school, including teen mothers.
The minister has been encouraging the girls who might have along the way got into early motherhood to go back. But without social support, this may not be feasible.
Since the resumption of learning in January, the government has affirmed that it has moved to re-fence the directives on infrastructural development, as well as the strict adherence of COVID-19 safety protocols in schools. However, the elephant in the room remains the sustainability of such programs. Reporting for Channel One News, I am Safin Aching Ouma.